Hello and welcome to another Wardy's Waffle Farm update. But before I start that, I just want to touch on something that's come in the news the last couple of days, and that's the announcement that CF Fertilisers are closing for good one of their fertiliser plants in the UK here, and that's in Ince in Cheshire in the west. That has been closed anyway since last September, and there's only one been running up in the northeast in Teesside. But we are massively short of fertiliser in the UK. We've relied on Russia and Ukraine over the last few years to supply some of our fertiliser, but we need more, and I can't believe that the government are not stepping in to help and secure our own fertiliser source, because obviously if we don't apply the amount of fertiliser because it's too expensive, which it currently is at the moment, then the amount of tonnes of grain and the tonnes of food we produce will drop, which means we import even more. And I think the only way we're going to recognise this, or the government recognise this, is for some of our supermarket shelves to go empty. And as far as I'm concerned, the sooner this happens, the better. Anyway, on to this week's update. I'm part of a breakfast club that meet 4 times a year. We have somebody come to talk to us every meeting, and just recently we had Cecilia Price, who's something to do with marketing. I can't remember her exact title, but she's quite high up in OPENFIELD. Extremely clued up lady. We had a really good session breakfast talk from her. I've got 11 minutes with her giving some tips on grain marketing, on why Russia and Ukraine are so important, world supply and demand, and how much grain the countries produce and what's happening around the world. If it's not for you, please advance forward and miss that. But I say, if you're actually marketing grain and you've got some grain still to market over the next few years, it's really good few clips and some good pointers. Anyway, I've had a lot of time away this last week, obviously down in London as well, with the relaunch of Farming Help, and you'll hear that mentioned quite a lot in the next week or two on the videos, and that's a collaboration between Forage Aid, Addington Fund and FCN. I'll talk about that in more detail in the video. We was in the House of Lords having a relaunch of that, so we've got some clips on that as well. And also I was at the Worshipful Company Farmers Lunch, meeting some other farmers and having a good time at lunchtime down there before the launch of relaunch of Farming Help. Also, we clear the house out. We've demolished the house that you saw a video or two ago. We're actually taking all the brick rubble down to make the new farm track. We've got that going on as well. And also we put the sewage treatment works into the new offices that you've seen us building, and that is to do also will serve the new house as well. And also please don't forget this Friday 17th of June, our Agri Summer iFarm event on all morning. Please email Becky. Her email address is below in the info below, and if you'd also, and you'll see from the attachments now that I'm putting up on the screen what's going on, quite a lot happening at that. There are a lot of things to discuss, but also if you'd like to come to that after lunch, please sign up. After lunch I will be taking a few of you around the direct drilling plots where we had the open day and looking at how they're progressing, so please let Becky know if you'd like to do that as well. Anyway, without any more from me now, here is on to this week's update. Just going to a breakfast meeting this morning. Lovely shot of Lincoln Cathedral behind me, and this area, Uphill Lincoln as it's known, is just fantastic. When you look here, we've got the castle, Lincoln Castle behind here, all these old buildings.
Inside the Sea of Azov, which is where the Russians are trying to get through to Crimea, and Odessa and Ilichevsk is about here. If you look on vesselspotting.com, and don't laugh, it is a great website. You won't find in this part of the Black Sea. There are a shed load of ships creeping round this area and south. Okay, so anybody tells you there's nothing going on in the Black Sea, I think you get chatty. Okay. Constanza's flat out before the invasion. This is the Ukrainian grain that had been shipped so far this season. So the season will always start on the 1st of July, regardless of commodity. When you're looking at certain data, so they shipped nominally 75% of all their wheat that they were planning on doing, 56% of their corn, and most of their barley. Yep. What was left to be moved is over there, and that's the important bit, because tons of exports that they take out year on year. So Russia and Ukraine combined, previous year 55 million tonnes, wanted the number somewhere between 55 and 60 million tonnes as a standard, depending on how big the crops are. But check this one out here, the percentage of the world's supply, percentage of the world exports easily in excess of 25% of wheat between the two of them, and 13% of the world wheat crop. Do exactly the same exercise on corn, and you can see how big the numbers are. Same with barley, but more importantly, run your eyeball over the end. Total exports for these guys is in excess of 100 million tonnes per year. This year's export market, and potentially 37 for this coming season. The one thing that you need to be aware of, and it's a number that nobody seems to really pay much attention to, this is Ukrainian wheat stocks. If there's no humanitarian corridor, if there is no get out of jail card to allow grain to be exported in any volume, the one thing that Ukraine is doing is building stock. And that stock, at some point, if somebody pulls the plug out, will hit the market. Timing of that stock coming to the market is the big unknown. If you get a humanitarian corridor straight away, bearing in mind that these guys were shipping 5 million tonnes a month. Yeah? People put their mind in the right place. Ships and loading ships is something that people can do 24 hours, 7 days a week with the incentive to do so. The biggest incentive currently is that that grain is dirt cheap compared with world market price. Problems are, where the paperwork issues are, what the logistic issues are. Does anybody know what that is relevant to? Anybody? Silence is golden. There aren't any train spotters in the room there. That is the gauge. That is your train gauges across Europe. Okay. Might sound very stupid to sit and look at train gauges. Personally, it doesn't do anything for me. But the reason why it's so important is that this train gauge, yeah, matches that train gauge. And if this was a map of the world, everything goes east. What doesn't flow out of Ukraine desperately well at the moment is stuff going west. So if you were to go and Google again, Ukrainian train networks, great website, again, not very confusing actually, because I tried to find you an easy picture and I couldn't find one. You will find that the biggest issue, one of the biggest issues that they've had in Ukraine is moving grain on trains out of the country. They can't use the ports, so they've tried their best to move it. They're moving about 1.5 million tonnes a month by train of mixed commodities. Long and short, there's not a huge amount in here. This number has now been proven to probably be about 10 million tonnes too high. But check the Russian number. If they do have an 80 million tonne crop, the biggest question is where's that going to go and who's going to eat it, because they need to move it. US, they've got some rain in the US between now and Friday, which may keep that number better. Remember last year it was a small number because of the drought in the spring areas. Your stock number, your global wheat and corn stock numbers over the years. This is the new data that's just been published, and this is your combined crop total. Now the interesting thing is here, these numbers haven't moved that much over the years. Run through it. The green one, as I always do, is Chicago wheat. You can see wheat's been more expensive than corn all season. You can see the issues that happened when the Ukraine happened, put all the markets up. You've got London wheat in purple mixed in with the bugger's muddle in there. You then got Matif wheat mixed in. All the markets sat in confidence with each other because nobody wanted to step outside the confidence factor. You know, who wants to be the cheapest? Who wants to be the bravest? There's no reason to. Together, London sat there at a discount before the Ukrainian situation, reflecting the fact it was a feed wheat, reflecting the fact it probably relates more to Chicago corn than to the other two contracts that are on here. But again, it was slow to move on the back of the Ukrainian crisis, so that happened about there. You didn't see the initial hike that you saw on the old crop because nobody believed this would be a long-term thing. Nobody believed there'd be a knock-on effect into the following season. And you will have all seen that on your grain prices quite nicely. But more recently, we've seen the rally up. Has anybody noticed what's really different here? real difference here is how cheap corn is against this wheat market. Okay. Now, what did I say about Ukraine? I said ultimately it was the corn that was missing in Ukraine, not the wheat. Okay. I'm not saying it's not important, but you need to watch that wheat corn spread, and I'll explain why in a minute. If you then go to NOV Deck 23, and I know a lot of you have been looking at fertiliser prices, you've been looking at hedging further forward. That's where the markets sit at the moment, aware and seriously savvy. Because at the moment, nobody knows how much of that Russian wheat will be allowed out, what the rules of the game will be, and who will be allowed to receive it. Okay? If that doesn't come to the market, then we've got another very big nasty mess on our hands. The next biggest exporter is the EU 27, call it 28, because we're not going to be playing much of the game in that one from a global point of view. We'll trade with Europe, but we won't be trading with too many other people. You're relying on a big Aussie crop, you're relying on a big Canadian crop. The Aussie crop won't be back until December, but they've got enough this season to keep shipping. Blue lines here are the percentage of the crop that needs exporting in these countries. France, regardless of the fact that they always say they're hard done by, they still need to export 50% of their wheat. Okay? They've got to find a ship. So they can't afford to stand back and not ship for a reasonable length of time, because their domestic market won't consume it. And if you stand back from a market for too long, and then your domestic market's got all the cover, what's going to happen? Somebody gets indigestion, you suddenly end up with a huge pile of wheat, has a backlog, needs to find a home. Prices have to reflect the fact it has to price itself out of the port and logistic constraints. Germany, 32%. These are the tons that they need to export, by the way. Romania, Bulgaria, this is the bit that you need to be very savvy about as well, because ultimately if Ukrainian grain is going into Bulgaria and Romania or going up the Danube and needs movement, it's going to hit these guys bang. Okay? And these guys are going to need to move it just off. Yeah? Old crop London wheat took off, but the one thing that didn't happen was the new crop, i.e. the harvest that you're just about to harvest didn't follow it until a couple of months later. This is the spread between May 22 and Nov 22. So any of you who thought Ukrainian crisis, what should we sell? Hopefully you sold your old crop, you didn't sell your new crop. As time wore on, the new crop values, and it threw a bit of a burden at the bottom as it went towards expiry, the new crop values rose up to reflect the old crop values. There was 50 odd quid's worth of spread there. So if you were selling your 22 crop at the same time as the Ukrainian crisis, you just missed out on 50 odd quid's worth of price increase because you sold it too early. Don't take your eye off old crop and new crop spreads. Similarly, this is your 23 crop. So if you're hedging your fertiliser at the moment, just be aware of how much of a discount your NOV 23 is to your May 23. And I wouldn't say fools rush in, because there's a reason for hedging off against fertiliser increase. But at the moment, your new crop grain values aren't reflecting this Ukrainian crisis lasting for much longer. Now that might change. If we don't see any increase in ability to plant, once the Ukrainian farmers get off their combine at the end of harvest, if they haven't got anything else to drill, your 23 prices will start to reflect that. Because unless the rest of the world picks up the slack somewhere, there will be another shortage next year. Does that all make sense? It's in certain places that we will not talk about, but they're getting better. This is Ukrainian maize imports into the UK over the years. Okay? Stomping big year last year. We ate a lot of Doritos in this country now. But I'll show you another slide as to where it really went. But check your rapeseed imports as well. That's the important one. This year we're probably bringing just under 1 million tonnes of rapeseed this year. One of the last ships that came in was actually one straight from Australia that discharged in Liverpool. So again, if you've got rapeseed in the ground, don't assume anything, check everything. Check your Australian lineups, your ship lineups, check your import prices, and don't just think it's a license to print money. If in doubt, put some money in the bank. Don't do anybody any harm, especially in a volatile market. Wheat, you can see how little Ukrainian wheat we're bringing in. This would have been feed wheat. There's nothing to stop Ukrainian feed wheat coming in except for a finite amount of TRQs. Okay? If it's milling wheat and it's top grade quality, it can come in without any stocks, but they don't make the type of grade that would come in. So Ukraine having an issue with wheat isn't an issue for us, because we're not likely to find it on our doorstep.
Just arrived in London. I'm at King's Cross. We've got a full day ahead. I've got the Worshipful Company of Farmers lunch at the Farmers and Fletchers Hall in London. Then at 4:30 in the House of Lords, we've got the relaunch of Farming Help. And Farming Help is a sort of joined up collaboration between the Farming Community Network, the Addington Fund and Forage Aid. And obviously I'm here to represent Forage Aid. And we're relaunching Farming Help in its current guise, just to promote what help there is out there in agriculture and farming. There's huge pressures and stresses and strains, and there is an enormous amount of help available if you require it. And so today we're going to relaunch it. There'll be a press release tonight going out about all that's available in the farming charity world from Farming Help. So big day ahead. Then also after that we've got celebration of George Dunn's 25 years at the Tenant Farmers Association, and then back on a train tonight. So full on day in London, looking forward to it, but should be a good cracking day. So it was a 5-minute ride on a tube from King's Cross to the Barbican station, which is near where I want to be for the Worshipful lunch, and I decided to walk it, 1.6 miles, something like that's all it was. Great exercise, ready for what I'm going to be eating later. Central London near the Barbican station. I've got Timothy here, I've just met on the street, have a lovely chat. Hello Timothy. Now, what are you trying to promote here?
So what we're doing, we're campaigning to stop stabbings and mental health. So we're trying to help the young community aged 16 to 24. So what we do is we run courses and workshops. In our courses, they can gain a skill, a qualification and an experience. So the initiative is to bring young people's passion to reality, which is what they've done for me. I did a course which is marketing. It's had a big impact on my life. It's boosted my confidence, my social skills, and my passion.
Fantastic.
Today I've met this man right here. He spoke to me about agriculture. I didn't really know too much about it. But through interacting with the public, I've met a lot, which has helped me out in my day-to-day life.
Brilliant, fantastic. Well, what you're doing is fantastic, and some of the things we've just mentioned about food and the mental health and stresses and strains in agriculture, and what you're doing, they're very similar, aren't they? Very, very similar. Lots of crossover. So thank you very much. You've made my day meeting you. So thank you very much. Timothy just said, can I make a contribution or buy a magazine? So I said I will, but instead, unfortunately, I haven't got any cash. He says, no problem, we have a card machine. Look here,
It's a cashless society.
Look at this, brilliant, brilliant. So I'm going to make a contribution. Well done.
Her day job, as we know, is to protect and enhance the economic well-being and quality of life for farmers of England and Wales. It is so apt that the President of the National Farmers Union should be with us today on such a special occasion.
For all of these years has been on food production. And when I look through the coming dates, nothing prepared me when I decided to stand for a third, and I have to say final term last autumn. I thought it'll be 2 quiet years of consolidation. Brexit is nearly done, the pandemic is settling down into a new normal, and it'll be 2 quiet years to develop all the work that the NFU has done. And then on the 24th of February, our world changed in a way that we never expected it to change.
So that's the Worshipful Company of Farmers lunch finished. Now just heading to Westminster. Got Westminster across the road, heading into House of Lords for the Farming Help launch. So I've got Sandy Taylor here from the RPA, the Rural Payment Agency, Diane Smart, the PCF, Princeton Countryside Fund. Both of them are extremely supportive of Forage Aid and Farming Help. So thank you both for your support over the years you've given us. It's fantastic. Without it, we couldn't manage. So thank you.
You're doing a fantastic job for us.
Well, thank you, and hopefully we'll have a good hour and a half here this afternoon. So thank you.
It's only
So we're just waiting to go into the House of Lords room that we're doing in. We've got lovely shot here of a nice security guard.
Yeah, telling you off.
Yeah, brilliant. Just waiting to go in for the relaunch of Farming Help. So we're about to start this launch. I've got Georgie, we've got Annie and Emily. So Georgie's from FCN and Annie and Emily are from Addington, and I'm Forage Aid. We're just about to start the relaunch. We've got all the logos here, we've got everything going on here, and ready?
Ready. Ready as we'll always ready.
So we're in one of the committee rooms in the House of Lords, and here are the invited guests coming in. A few refreshments to start with, and then these to finish.
We're in a very privileged position to be here in the House of Lords today. So thank you to Lord Curry for hosting us today.
So that's it. The launch of Farming Help is now finished. So now heading across to another event in London. That's the shop. Last event of the day in the Farmers Club. We've got the septic tank, or the sewage treatment works that we're taking around for the new offices, and it's also going to do the house as well. And you buy these in a people capacity. So this is suitable for 10 people. And it's got pumps all in it as well, and it minces everything up and treats all the sewage, and then we put it out into a drain and it comes out as pure water. I don't really know how it works, but it's all to do with bacteria inside, and we've got a hole through there that we're going to put it in the ground. So this is the hole that we've got dug to put it in. Crikey, you don't realise it's as deep as that. We need to put concrete round it as well, and it does need to be concreted in. So there's the offices there, so we're going to pipe from there, which we have already got the pipe started here. So this is all the pipes from the toilets and the basins here that's going to go in a drain and going to go through to there. This is an old tree stump we dug out yesterday. There's a big old chestnut tree stump here, so we've dug that out as well. Been here a few years, we've got that out. And then the house that we're going to build, obviously just through here. We've got to clear that away next couple of days. There's the timbers from the roof. So this is where the new one's going, in the same place as the old one, but looking out over the fields at the back. Just have a quick look here. Apologise for the wind. I haven't got my microphone on me at the minute. It's in my vehicle. And looking out over the back, if I can reach over the hedge, that is the view we're going to have out the back. And we are going to take this Leyland eye hedge out and put a fence in, so we can see through it and see the view from the house.
See a bit, Ron, if you can. Right up. And right up.
So it's lower down in the ground because we're going to put a ring on top of that to bring it up, because the levels from the house just through there are right for where it is there in the ground. That's why it needs to be deeper, because normally that lid would be level with the top of the soil. That's it now. We've just got a concrete all around it to make it stable. So I was doing something else, but Ron, the builder's got this cemented in. We've got, you can see inside there, filled it with water to hold it down, and you put cement all around it and gravel. And we've mixed that hand mix because we couldn't get any load of ready mix until another week. So we've mixed that and put it round it. And then we need some extra risers on there, some rings on there to bring it up to ground level, and then fill it in above that. So still a bit to do, but we're getting there. I'm just walking along the track now next to this field of wheat on my left, where I saw the blackgrass 2 or 3 days ago when it was wet, and I'm just looking for the mark on the track so I can see where the blackgrass is. So it is somewhere, here we go, that's the mark I made in the track, so the blackgrass should be out here somewhere. Yeah, Here we go. Now this is interesting. When you get down, you can actually see the blackgrass easier. You can see it waving about above the crop there. A few plants there, a few there, there. So we'll just go in and pull these. If I get, you can just see in the crop there, the thinner leaves. So if I bend down to the bottom, down there, there we go. All that lot is from one seed, so I'll put that out on the lane. Pull this one as well, just here. If I can find it, should be down the bottom here. There we go. That's those. So put those out. Down there, there's one. Down there, there's another one. Let's pull those. Another one there I've missed yet. Pulls ever so easily now with the soil being moist from the rain at the weekend. It's best time to do it really. I'll just get them all out and then come back and just show you what it's like. So looking across the top of the crop now, I've been here about 5 minutes and it's amazing. I thought there was only 5 or 6 plants or groups of plants, and you'll see in a minute when I've thrown them, picked them up off the lane, I've thrown them on what there is. Just looking here, walking, 1 or 2 people say, don't you damage the wheat when you're picking blackgrass? Yes, you do. And you can see here's where we've walked. Yeah, I know I've got Nala in here with me as well, and she's trampled a bit down. But generally, this is what you get when you hand pull blackgrass. This is the type of effect you get. But I will say, because we're so early and away from harvest, a lot of this will spring up. It won't spring back fully, but it'll spring up enough for the combine to get underneath it so you don't lose any grain. You can see here, this is where the patches were, so you do tread it in a bit. But if I just go back to the edge of the field, where I first crouched down and looked over the top, thanks Nala, and we'll go over the top of the crop again, you can see now, got them all. There we go, this is the volume of blackgrass that I've just pulled within 5 minutes in that area that we thought there's only a few plants. I'll just put that on the floor so you can see. There you go. Yeah, thanks Nala. And that's the level of plants and all those seeds. Just remember, some of these ears, thank you Nala, some of these ears here could contain, the large ears, up to 1,000 seeds in one ear. So you imagine then next year you have 1,000 plants. And that's why we operate a zero tolerance policy, and why those few blackgrass plants there are so important to pull. And I see there are 1 or 2 machines getting out there now to actually take the crop. You can go through the field, cut the crop. It's got like a big wheel going through it, like the reel of a combine, and then a cutter bar, and you go through above the crop, cut off the blackgrass ears. They go on this little conveyor belt and into a hopper behind. But to achieve decent blackgrass control and to have no more the blackgrass situation in the field not get worse, you need to have 98% control. So you need to get 98% of the blackgrass ears you have in a field to stop that problem getting worse. And those few plants we've just pulled here now, those few just down there, there was only about probably 6 or 8 or 10 ears above the crop. But I always find with blackgrass, there's always twice as many blackgrass plants below the crop that you can't see than those above the crop you can. And you just pull one of those. That's why it's important to reach down to the bottom of the plant. If you just pull the long ones and pull it from the top, you'll leave a whole load at the bottom. So you find the tallest one, reach your hand to the bottom and pull it like I've just shown you, and that gets them all. So yeah, worthwhile exercise, 5 minutes here just doing that, and it really, really does pay off. And zero tolerance policy with blackgrass, we've had it 10 years now, and to my mind, it is the only way to deal with it. There's these weeds there. I'm just going to pick those up, but I'm going to put them in these trees here. Come on Nala, let's go and get rid of these. Throw them in there and let them rot down, and they won't do any harm here. Just put them out the way, so just a little area like that. But important to get them out the cropped area of the field. Actually, while I'm in here, just showing you this wildflower margin. Brilliant. Look at the number of flowers and the amount of flower heads coming on it. Absolutely lovely. All these, this will be a sea here of reds and blues and whites and everything soon. But look at these, just a massive amount of flowers and it'll be buzzing with insects. There we are already. Look, we've just got some oxyized daisy. There's a fly's just gone off there. But yeah, just fantastic to have these around every single field. This is the only problem I've got as well with this type of thing though. You can just see there the dark green thing sticking up. That's blackthorn, and we do get that, unfortunately, in some of these margins. It comes out from the hedge and just grows out, and you can just see why if you didn't manage all these areas it would overtake it. So here's the blackthorn patch here, and there's some more dotted around up there. What we'll do, we'll come with a cutter in the winter time and we'll cut these right down to stop them getting too big, and just manage it. And that's the thing with a lot of these wildlife areas and these environmental schemes. A lot of people don't realise, they think you just put them down and forget about them, but they need managing. So we're managing food for humans in that wheat field where we've just pulled the blackgrass, but this area we're also managing food for wildlife, and this is what they do, and it needs managing and looking after. But it's great to do, great reward, and to see all the insects that we'll have in here, and the wildlife. Just looking at the payments at this, we get £640 a hectare for these margins, which is about £250 an acre. And the thing with them, is that really is hardly enough, because, like I say, they need managing, and DEFRA and Natural England and the people that set these schemes and the payment rates really need to know this and to look at it and to realise that they do need managing, and it costs us to manage them, and that's why that figure of £250 an acre or £640 a hectare isn't really enough for the amount of benefit we're bringing to the wildlife and the environment, but also for the work involved in managing these schemes. And it's like I said a minute ago, that they don't just happen. Once you put them down, you don't just leave them, you have to look after them, and I think DEFRA really need to just understand that. Just driving the other end of the field, I've just pulled this blackgrass, and I've seen a few more plants. There's a few dotted around in here. It's funny, once you get your eye in, you can spot them. Can you just see those light coloured ones in the middle of the screen there waving about? They're blackgrass plants. Again, it's crucial those are pulled. Here we go. There we go. So we're just starting to get this now cleared away. It's taken a fair bit of sorting, because there is a fair bit of wood in it as well, and we haven't got a finger grab for this excavator, so quite a bit of manual work, and also work with the Manitou and the tines, but we're getting there slowly. We still haven't managed to find a 16-ton contract tipper. There's one or two floating about I've seen, and thank you for those of you who alerted me to them, but they weren't right spec and good enough for what we wanted. So we're still on this old 12-tonner at the minute. So that's it for another edition. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. Please come back to me with any questions, and we'll see you next time, which I think will be in the middle of next week, when I'll be posting one dedicated to the Royal Cornwall show, and so that will be Wednesday night when I post that. So until then, cheerio.